Both of them are from BCom FNA batch of 2018, and they have completed the articleship in Deloitte and PwC respectively. Anirudh Ramesh worked with Deloitte for his articleship, and Devarsh worked with PwC for his articleship. And both of them were cognito directors in their respective batches. And hello, am I audible? Satvik, can you confirm if I'm audible?
No, you
Yeah,
were.
you're audible.
Yeah, so that's it about both of them, and I think all of you all might know both of them really well because they were familiar faces in college as well. Anirudh recently cleared CA intermediate, and he got an all India rank of 28. So all of you all might have might be aware of that as well. So without any further delay, I'll sorry, CA final, my bad. I said CA intermediate, my bad. Sorry, CA final. So without any delay, I'll hand it over to them. So Anirudh and Devarsh, you guys can talk about your articleship experience first, and then we'll start off with the Q&A session.
Nachipan, thank you for having us here today. So to correct a few things he said, it was CA final. He corrected that himself. Secondly, we passed out in 2019, not in 2018. So we both of us were in BCom F&A from 2016 to 2019. So I would like today's session or orientation to be more of a Q&A session because I had a lot of questions when I started off articleship. I wasn't sure what firm to get into. I had multiple questions actually, and I think I'll just give you a brief introduction of how the articleship space works, and then we'll probably get into a more refined understanding of what is probably the best fit for you and also where you should go. So to begin with, basically there are four big firms which take articles, which is Deloitte, KPMG, PwC, and EY. There's also Grant Thornton, which is considered to be a part of the Big Five. So articleship largely varies around the following areas. Firstly, audit, assurance, and internal audit. Second is direct and indirect taxation. And thirdly is something called transfer pricing. There's also a fourth variant, which is mergers and acquisitions under tax or under valuations. So these are the four main broad concepts. In the Big Four, for example, where Dev and I worked in our respective Big Fours, both of us were restricted to the audit and assurance function. So this is a very key characteristic over any Big Four where I wouldn't call it pigeonholing, but you are restricted to one specific department. However, in a mid-sized firm, you are able to do all of these following areas. All the four areas I mentioned is what you will be undergoing. So to begin my journey, I cleared my intermediate exams my attempt was November 2017. So both of us cleared our exams in November 17. And I joined Deloitte. So our interview processes happened in the month of Feb. So our results came out in the end of Jan. Interviews started around the first week of Feb, and I joined articleship around the middle of March. So this is a brief timeline on how things work. So for example, today is the 11th of Feb, but the reason why your articleship entrance, for example, got extended is because the results came only 3 days back. So big fours will probably start approaching you. They might even come to college to take an interview or to give you a brief on who they are. For example, to take my experience into counting, I was again involved in the audit and assurance function in Deloitte India. And Deloitte, as you know, is one of the big fours, and it's a brand that is recognized globally. So to state as to why I chose a big four experience was solely due to the fact that down the line I wanted a global brand on my resume. A resume is something, as you all know, a format of sorts where you tell your prospective employer on what you've achieved, your education details, your leadership positions, if any, and such other things. So I wanted my resume to stand out if I was competing with someone else, and I felt that a global recognition of a brand on a resume would help in that regard. So that was the first reason why I was solely looking at a big four for articleship. Then, to begin with, I was also my experience over the last 3 years varied from handling a lot of clients. So I was involved in about 20 plus clients over 2.5 years, because you get 6 months of study leave. So 2.5 years. I think I'll be liberal enough to take names. So if so, there's a big demarcation between listed entities and unlisted entities in India. Listed entities are those ones whose securities are listed on the stock exchanges, and they have rigorous compliance mechanisms in place for auditors to follow. So I was lucky enough that my first client, for that matter, was a listed entity. Yes, the work hours are very long. I worked up to 2 a.m., 3 a.m. for a long period of time, but that would always get compensated by something called compensatory leaves. So the extra hours I work on a particular day, I can use that and take off the next week, for example, or when the engagement is over. So this is one thing that a Big Four offers to you. They tell you that even if you work for 14 hours today, while a normal work day would be for 8 hours, you can use those extra 6 hours to compensate it on a different day. And this is something that has been a normal practice in any Big Four. I'm not going to talk about how a mid-sized firm is different. You will have people coming on board to talk about that. I will solely be focusing on why I chose the Big Four and my experience through it. Coming back to the point, so such compensatory leaves, right, or called comp offs, for example, help me understand that I can work hard when an engagement requires me to work hard, and I can also take a break later on when I have a relatively chill time at work, to quote it colloquially. And this happened, and I was shifted around a lot of clients. I went from a listed entity it was called Tata Global Beverages Limited, a leading FMCG entity in India. And then I went to an IT major. It was called SLK Software. And but a disclaimer is that audit, for example, will make you travel to a whole lot of places. You might have something called an office. So my office, for example, was on Palace Road, but I would have probably gone to the client's place more than I've ever gone to office. So one thing that you get out of a Big Four and is you get to interact with a lot of high profile clients. You will probably, if you're lucky enough, you probably get to deal directly with the CEO or the CFO of your client, and you can assist them in implementing strategies, for example. Um, Coming back, so my experience also pertained to a manufacturing entity, which is called Madura Coats. And you might have heard of this company called Kurlon Mattresses. I was involved in that as well. And towards the end of my articleship, I had the privilege, I would say, to work with a leading real estate entity in Bangalore. So my team, for example, was it. I would say that the work culture in Deloitte was something I've always admired. Yes, there might be phases where you work a lot, where you probably go back home at 4 a.m. in the morning, but those are very, very rare days. The days when you have, so the thing that made a difference between what I heard at Deloitte and what anyone else at the other big fours would tell me is I felt people were more considerate, to be honest. Again, disclaimer, I'm not selling Deloitte here. I'm not here on their behalf. But the major fact is I felt they were more considerate people, and I could probably explain to them if I had a situation today. I could tell them this is what is happening. I might have to leave work early today, and it always almost worked out. They were compassionate people, and I felt this helped me. This helped me to probably also do a lot of CA final classes on time. I have seen people not in. I mean, I wouldn't take firm names, but I've seen people where they've struggled to probably even get leaves for exams, to probably even attend classes because they've gone for months together, working till 2 a.m., 3 a.m., back to work at 9 a.m. the next day, and you really can't attend final classes at 6 a.m. in the morning, for example. So I'm almost at the end of my monologue, where I'll just quickly summarize what I've emphasized upon. You shouldn't let the firm you choose be dependent on who you want to get in with. Your friends might have gone to a different big four, their interviews might have already happened. Make sure that you research with people who have just probably been in that big four. For example, I know Nachiappan who's conducting today's session, is a part of Deloitte right now. A lot of you might know him better than you probably know me or Dev. So I would recommend you connect to them and understand the work culture and ask them three very basic questions. Um, how does the team handle high pressure situations? What actually happens when a lot of deadlines are not met? Do they put in a lot of stress on you? Do they extend work? Stuff like that. And also understand, what do you get out of the firm? Would you be able to shine or probably outshine someone who does an articleship somewhere else? If yes, then please choose that particular firm. So those are three very basic questions which I would recommend all of you to ask any individual, or even if you're going for an interview, right? Always cross question the person who's interviewing you. Ask them, why do you think that you choosing Deloitte, for example, might be better than you choosing PwC? And I think that's perfectly normal for anyone to encounter or to ask. So make sure that you get your priorities right. It is very difficult to actually choose whether you want to get into a big four or you want to get into a mid-sized firm, but have a few key parameters in place and probably work upon them. And to conclude, there's one thing that I probably missed out on is a lot of people want to practice after clearing their final. So when I say practice, you want to set up your own CA firms where you probably have clients and you deal with auditing or accountancy, financial reporting, or taxation. But on the other flip side, you want to work for a big four or you want to work in the industry for a big corporate. So I think that is a very big decision to take. I knew for a fact that I didn't want to get into a practice. I wanted to work for a big four initially and then probably see where this led me to. So that is the main reason why I didn't go to a mid-sized firm. However, if you think you want to practice or you have a family firm to take forward and you want exposure in a lot of things, then I would highly recommend you listen to the mid-sized speakers whenever they come on board and take an informed decision. Thank you.
Not open. I'll start.
Yes, Dev. Yes.
All right. Well, I don't know what I have left to say. He pretty much covered everything. And I do agree with a lot of things that he said. So I guess I will focus more on what do you get out of articleship part of it. Like, see, firstly, I'll start off with this that the choice between mid-size and big fours is a hard one. It always is. But I guess what you get more in Big Four is that you get a very corporate experience. So you learn to write very formal emails. You learn how systems work. You learn how procedures work, and those are really, well-written documents which you quite literally have to follow as they are. And the big fours give you a lot of corporate experience basically. With a mid-size, what you get is mainly an in-depth technical knowledge, which Ani, as he said, you will require that mainly if you start your own firm. So if you're looking for practice after CA, then you should definitely go for a mid-size firm. But what a big four does is it gives you soft skills. You learn how to prioritize your time. You learn time management pretty well. I mean, otherwise it's hard for you to survive. So those kind of skills, soft skills, is what a big four gives you. Then I guess PwC was where I completed my articleship from. And there is one thing though, a lot of people sometimes might tell you that a certain firm is a certain way and a certain firm is not a certain way. But it more or less, in my experience, it depends a lot on the kind of team that you are in. So the kind of experience that I might have had at PwC or Ani might have had at Deloitte would not be the same from a similar person from a different team in the same firm. Like, for example, I might say that I might not have had such a hard time. I have never worked overtime in my articleship, which is not true, but just as an example. But a lot of my friends, for example, would tell you that they actually did work a lot overtime, and they have always been struggling throughout. So a lot of that depends on the kind of managers you have, which really is out of your control. So those are things that can be managed to a certain extent, depends on the kind of rapport you have with your managers and the firm. And yeah, so it basically depends on that as well. I guess the only thing that you can distinguish firm wise is on the basis of culture. How do you feel? Like what do you feel people say, even if they've had bad experiences? Do they still say that no, the firm still gave me a certain amount of leeway? They still gave me a certain amount of leave for my exams? They were considerate about my classes. So I guess those things would be the only parameters based on which you can differentiate. Because I feel that a lot of it depends upon your luck on which team you get and what kind of clients you get. For example, Anirudh did a few listed clients in the beginning of his articleship, I remember, and I was not on any listed clients throughout. And he would come home every day at like 2 a.m. or something, and I would be home by 6, 7. So those are like you can't help it in such a case. You have to work because that is the nature of the client. And sometimes it's been completely the opposite, where I have struggled to come home by even 3 sometimes, and the others were well before at home well before 5. So things like that happen, and there is no control over that. But I would say that, in the beginning, it is a little hard. It is hard to manage things, but with a little bit of grit and determination and some kind of priority, if you can give to certain tasks, you will not just enjoy it, you will also learn a lot. Ani and I also did Cognito. We were the Cognito directors in our attempt during our articleship period, and those were hard times because it was December and a lot of US clients end their financial year at that point. And a lot of people might think that that was a hard time. Yes, it was pretty hard. We had a tough time managing, for example, a fest and the whole firm and classes. Class by classes, I mean college. So, but we did manage to do it at the end of the day. It all depends on how you are able to prioritize and stuff like that. And those things, I believe, you learn better at a big four. And well, coming to the next thing is the kind of nature of work that you get. I guess you should also ask a few of your friends or seniors the kind of clients a certain firm has. So that will give you an understanding of the complexity of work that you might get, the kind of experience that you might get, because that can also help you choose. Like when you go into a certain firm after you have established yourself there, you can actually go and ask your manager, listen, I want to do this client, is there any way I can get on it? So those kind of things can be exciting for some people. Like I tried to do that. I wanted to do a certain company called Finastra. I wanted to do their audit, and I got onto their audit. So stuff like that happens. And the kind of exposure that you get at these kind of audits and places, for example, a Big Four, is it's very, let's say, global at times. Because, for example, right now I just got back from work, and I'm working on an audit where we are working with about 57 countries. So all of them speak different languages as well, and you still have to talk to them, somehow get the work done, manage things. So that kind of an experience, if you're looking for a global exposure, those kind of things you only get at a Big Four. Some mid-sized firms might have it, but not all of them. And I guess there's one more name that in the good firms that I probably missed out was BDO. That's also pretty upcoming. So even if you get there, it's a pretty good place to be at. Yeah, and this just hit me. So when we were selecting our firm, we were also very concerned about the kind of pay that we get. So I think I should say outright that all the firms now offer the same pay, and trust me, that should not be the basis on which you choose your firm, because there's a lot more to the kind of pay that they offer and the kind of work that you are given. So, do not at all think about the pay or the leaves, no matter whatever they promise. it's not always as good as it seems. In the end, it, I guess, just boils down to the kind of relationship that you have with your partner, that you have with the manager, and because they'll be approving your leaves, so you kind of need them to be on your side. Those kind of things matter. So yeah, these I wanted to talk more on the soft skills part of it, and I guess I'm done. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Anirudh and Dev. I think both of you all have comprehensively covered most of the major factors that impact the decision about selecting which firm to do your articleship at. So we'll move on to the Q&A session right now. So this we let Anirudh and Dev, you guys are fine with people unmuting and speaking up, right? Instead of
Yeah.
typing in the chat box.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just have one thing to add to what Dave said. So, I mean, the pay is ultimately the same. It wasn't when we started off, but right now, articles get 15 in their first year, 15,000 per month, and then it's 20,000 in your second year and 25 in your third year. So all the big fours are on. It's on par right now. I'm not sure how Grant Thornton and video work, and I'll sure Nachiappan. I'll put across someone to him who can get you the exact details for that. Also, when we started off at Deloitte, I got 6 months of study leave. For my November attempt, I got 6 months of study leave. However, from here on, all the big fours have moved to a very, very similar leave structure where you are getting approximately 4 months. So don't, you might hear from someone that Deloitte offers more leaves. That is not true right now. Every big four offers the same pay and every big four offers the same number of exam leaves. Nachopan, we're open to questions. If but
Yes.
I'm just not sure how if there's a conflict in question. So how do we ensure that doesn't happen? In terms of three people unmuting themselves at the same time.
Is there a raise hand feature on this?
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
just
that is available. So I think people can raise hands and then unmute one by one.
Yeah, we'll call out the names, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't. Okay, there's Jayesh Gupta.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So I had a doubt with Devash had mentioned about BDO.
Yes.
So can you recommend me any person who is from BDO because I have no idea anyone from BDO and I wanted to know something. So if I have something to ask, who can I approach?
Okay, I
Do you
do
have any
know a
friend?
person. Yeah, I have a friend there. I have a friend there. So what I'll do is I'll forward his contact to Nachiappan and you can take it from him.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thanks.
Yeah. Hmm.
Dave. How do you see if someone's raised their hand? I'm
It
able to
just
identify that.
it just comes like for Jayesh. It just came. I don't know if anyone's. I don't think anyone's raising their hand anymore.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has any queries either. I mean, I hope we weren't that boring, but
Or that comprehensive. I hope that's the case.
we'll take it as a compliment. So, is there anyone else who needs anything, any queries to be answered?
Uh,
Hello,
I
this is
guess.
Bharat Rathi.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, we couldn't hear
Hello,
you.
hello, it's Bharat Rathi from 4 Become
Okay.
F&A.
Yeah,
Okay.
Varad.
Yeah. Can you share your CA final study timeline? Like, when did you exactly begin, and what was the sequence of subjects? And like, before starting your study leave, in what position you were? Like, did you complete everything one time, or you had some subjects left?
I think
All,
Ani should take this.
all right. So, I mean, I think right now, to be honest, since you're getting into articleship, right, your main focus should be on getting a firm of your choice. And I think we can probably have a session on how to prepare for CA final a little later. Because honestly, my only focus in the first 1 year of articleship was to have fun in college. So to give you an example, right? So my intermediate attempt was in November 2017, which is exactly 3 years before your attempt, for example. And my final attempt was November 2020. I started all my classes in the month of May 2019, which is approximately 18 months before my final attempt. This is something I would not recommend everyone to follow, which is why I go into details on how on what probably is the best strategy to be followed. And I don't think this is possibly the right platform, considering you're still looking for a firm. Once all of that is sorted, then we can definitely have a session and I can brief you about that. Is that fine?
Alternatively, you can also watch his interview where he has mentioned about it.
All right. Varad, I hope that answers your query. And the only reason I'm not putting it out there right now is because it's too early for you to think about exams, like now itself, for example.
I agree. Yeah, you need to, I guess, finish college and have some fun right
Yeah,
now.
you're in four BCom F&A. I remember when the both of us were in four BCom F&A, we had nothing to do with CA final. All we
Yeah.
did was have fun in college and go to work.
I mean, you
So
have all your life to be serious. Like, just
I mean,
enjoy this
I even
period.
during my sixth sem, right? Matthew sir accompanied us for a fest in Mysore. So that was how we were
Yeah.
in sixth sem. So I would recommend you to enjoy your college life while it lasts, because trust me, once it gets over, you're not getting it back. And we regretted it so much, not having more fun. So please, right now, get a good firm. Please get, a really, whatever firm you want of your choice, please work towards that. And we shall discuss CA final strategies at length.
Yeah, like think about the experience and all that you will get and what other things that you can do. Don't think about the final exam right now. Doesn't help, honestly.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I can see Samuel raising his hand. Samuel, you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah. Hi guys. So I have a doubt on, like, when companies first ask you whether what department you want, whether you want audit or tax, uh, and we say an option, right? Do we have to stick with that similar department for all 3 years, or can we ask them for a change in between? Like I chose audit now, but later I want to move into tax. Would they
Nope.
be fine with it, or?
No, just it's a simple one-word answer. No. If you're in a big four, no.
So how it works is Deloitte and PwC, for example, do not take articles for anything other than audit.
True.
So you literally don't have a choice to move within departments because there is no choice to begin with. EY, on the other hand, offers tax and audit. However, I know people who've pursued both, and they've also, asked people in EY if there can be an internal shift, and there has never been yes for an answer. You either once you start audit, you stick to it for 3 years. Once you start tax, you stick to it for 3 years. There is no possibility of an internal shift. Unless, I mean, this is again strictly talking from a Big Four GT and a GD point of view. I am not aware how BDO works, but in a mid-sized firm, you do everything basically.
True. Yeah. Mid-size is where you get all the kind of experience, but in the big fours, I don't think you can shift.
You can't. I haven't come across a single person who's done that.
Yeah. But I guess audit should be your starting line because that builds your base. Tax is something you can catch up to, is what I feel. But if you don't have your basics right, if you don't know how journal entries work in a big company, then how will you work with the rest of it?
So
Is
to
what
put,
I feel.
I mean, to again put things into perspective, what we mean is, so audit, for example, right? It's always a very common conception that it's easier to move into tax from audit
True.
than to move into audit
Yeah.
from tax. So, which is why all of us, for example, chose audit because it provides me a proper base. It gives me understanding of compliance mechanisms, how regulatory bodies work, how to understand and analyze financial statements. And once we qualify as CAs, then you can possibly shift to tax. That was our thought process.
True. Yes. Exactly.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Anirudh
Yes.
and Dave, I'll jump in here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
See, when I've got a good perspective from both of you about the Big Four, and I used to be in the Big Four as well. But what I want to just understand from you at this point is, see, you both said that you were directors at Cognito. You talked about traveling. You talked about taking part in so many fests, and that's the feeling that I get from both of you, that you were very actively involved in all your college activities. Now, that to a great extent, I believe, plays a role in the firm that you choose. Because at the end of the day, what would you tell somebody who is not as forthcoming when it comes to FES, who's not somebody who has the capability or has the wherewithal to become a director of Cognito? What kind of a thing would you tell them, that what are the basic softer aspects? Like, we may know the entire CA inter, all of you have cleared CA inter, you may know all those journal entries, you may be very good with your book knowledge, but what are the softer skills that you require when you come to a firm like this? Maybe the attitude, the mental strength, the belief, the self-confidence. What kind of weightage would you give to that? Could you just throw some light on that, please?
Yeah.
Sure, sir. So to begin with, I think the Big Fours, as you're aware of, has something called an open door policy, where I can potentially go up to my partner and reach out to him on a very personal level. And this was something that was a cultural shift for any of us, having done internships in the past or having worked in any event. You always feel that someone who's superior to you is actually superior to you. But I have encountered situations where I could literally go up to people who are about 15 years older than me and talk to them on a very, very personal level, and they would welcome me with open arms. Yes, there have been hostile managers. That happens everywhere. But this cultural shift was something that I welcomed the most in terms of also uh, for people who aren't probably very outgoing or introverted in nature. What I feel, I've seen such people in articleship as well, and I feel their soft skills have gone up a whole notch in terms of client facing skills. How do you work with tough deadlines, for example? How do you go about and talk to multiple people and also engage? So ultimately, articleship is about a client facing front end kind of role. And I feel the articleship at a big four gives you exposure to multiple clients and top personnel. So it helps you hone your speaking skills, your confidence, the way you dress. It matters everywhere. And this helped the both of us, talking on behalf of Dave as well, to bring back and probably contribute more to the department. So we felt we had something to begin with. We did an articleship. We started off at a big four. And yes, the amount of confidence we had in college helped us crack the interview. But if you feel that you possibly might not crack it, the only way to do that is get more confident in public speaking. Because the big four looks for individuals who are outgoing and can also communicate and speak, effectively for that matter. So I hope I've touched upon a few of your queries, sir, if I might say that.
Yes, yes, you have. Thank you.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. See, the thing is, more than the work here, I feel communication is key. So, you have to know how to communicate things very clearly and very well. And even if you want to get things done your way, you have to know how the art of knowing how to speak that. Honestly, when we walked in, I don't think both of us had that skill in us either. And it's not a very hard skill to acquire, because usually when you face so many people day in and day out, you're talking to the client, you're talking to the managers, you're talking to your partners, you're talking to your team members. So you are forced to learn those things. It just comes to you at after a point. But having said that, yeah, you do require some degree of confidence right now as well to, be able to crack the interview, because they will look for that. Although they do build it, like for example, I was a little hesitant to talk to the clients directly in the beginning, but my managers would see that and they would force me to go and talk to the client. They even things that they could do it themselves, they would just force me to do it. So, they do build you up there like that. But I guess to be able to talk to, for example, a CFO or a CEO of a company, you need to have a certain amount of prerequisite skills, the kind of confidence that you need, the way you carry yourself. Those things are some things that you can work on, improve upon if you have the time, and that does help you get to a big. distance.
Thank you, Dev.
Yeah.
Anirudh and Dev, another common question which a lot of people were asking before the session was also about the interviews at Big Four firms. So can you guys mention about that as well?
Well,
Yeah, right. So I'm just typing out something in the chat box. So this is a normal process that usually happens. So first one is an aptitude test. Second one is something called a group discussion. And then that's followed by usually a personal interview, which is divided into two parts. A personal interview where it's a technical interview and a HR interview. So some firms, for example, do the group discussion first, eliminate. So again, so in a group discussion for that matter, what happens is they look at your communication skills, your clarity of thought, how well you can communicate, and how well you gel in a team. In a big four, you will be so I'll take Deloitte for example. We had about 300 professionals and about 30 plus articles working on the same floor. So you had to understand how a team works and how to gel with a team. And how do you discuss something without potentially getting angry, for example? And that is a very, very basic thing to have as a quality in an individual. So a group discussion could probably be the first step, followed by and if you get shortlisted, let's assume, so Grant Thornton came to college in 2018, and about 80 people participated in the group discussions. From there, it was shortlisted to about 40. Half the people were eliminated through that. Then there was an aptitude test, which involved basic math questions, quantitative questions, logical reasoning, verbal, all the basic questions that you can potentially find on any aptitude test online, just to ensure that it is not you, for example. So they have a bot in place to ensure that your English skills, for example, are good enough, because you have to communicate in a big four. And how well do you think? What is your clarity of thought while doing a logical reasoning question? And that helps them to weed out certain people again. So from 40 it came down to 20. Then there were two more rounds where it was a personal interview on a technical level and a HR interview or a partner level interview. So technical interview was, what we did was basically study what we did for the exams, brush up on all the topics with particular importance to the following: accounts, advanced accounts, law, audit, and taxation. Usually they don't ask EIS, strategic management, or financial management or costing. It's mostly revolved around papers. I'm not sure the order of the papers right now, but I would say accounts, law, audit, advanced accounts, and financial management here and there. So you should prepare on these criteria with special importance. If you're looking at audit, more importance on audit. If you're looking at taxation, more importance on direct and indirect taxation. And ultimately, again, so this is a rough idea of the process. A HR interview is basically your background. Why do you want to get into a big four? The questions could be as follows. Question one could be, why big fours? Why not a mid-sized firm? Question two could be, why Deloitte or why PwC? Why not someone else? Question three could be, what do you think? Where do you see yourself down the line? After 3 years, after you finish your articleship and you clear your exams, where do you see yourself? And they will also understand why you are the best fit for them and not the next person in line. So I would go so far as to say that it is competitive. It definitely is competitive, but I for a specific reason felt really satisfied when I got into Deloitte, for example, because I knew that the next 3 years, whatever comes and goes, I have a job in hand at a reputed multinational global entity, and they gave me enough leaves. They took care of everything. So this is the process, like I mentioned. I hope this helps.
Yeah, so I'll just add on to something. So I guess one thing that a lot of people don't understand is how group discussions work, and a lot of people are afraid of it. So it's not the person who speaks the most, it's not the person who knows the most, it's the person who facilitates the most who gets selected in a group discussion. So in a GD, your job is to not talk the most, not be the loudest, but to actually be able to see if the team is going on the right track, and if they're not, put them on the right track. You have to make the discussion go forward. You have to not, try and say that no, what I'm saying is right. It's not a debate. It's a discussion. So, you have to go in that way. You're trying to come to a mutual conclusion or a mutual solution in the end. So that is about group discussion. And aptitude test, it sounds like it's hard, but it's not really. It's just basic math. I don't think it's
Yeah,
very hard. Yeah, it was very easy, and I'm someone who's not
it was
so
very
great
easy.
at math. So yeah, even I was able to clear it with a lot of ease. So aptitude test is something you
So
shouldn't worry about too much. And GD, I mentioned, the rest Ani gave a lot of details. Where do you see yourself down the line? That a lot
where
of it
you
depends on the kind of lines that you like. Like, would you, if you like audit, then you could probably say, yeah, I do see myself here. If you like the CA course, for example, you have to begin with that, and only then can you actually think about liking either audit or tax. And on that basis, you would have to give that answer.
but I would say that a proper hack for this answer would probably just tell them that you see yourself clearing your exams, your final exams, and coming back to work for them and growing exponentially in the organization. So that you basically tell them that you want to come back and work,
Yeah.
which also means that you're not looking at them for a 3-year articleship time frame, but you're looking at them for beyond that.
You
Yeah,
can tell
Ishika.
them that, you can tell them, but you don't have to. I mean, don't think like it's a compulsion once you say it. That's what I think.
Yeah, so to answer Ishika's question, do they expect us to tell them that we want to work with them? I mean, so if you're looking at the interview, yeah, you definitely have to tell them that you want to work with only them, right? And always talk to your seniors and understand those 2, 3 different points why a particular Big Four stands out.
Correct.
So
Yes.
you might have a Deloitte interview on tomorrow, on Friday, for example. Have 2, 3 differentiating factors which are actually factual in nature. Then on Saturday, you might go for a PwC interview. There might be something that might be wrong with the firm, but there is also something that is a positive. So identify those key traits on why PwC is probably better than the other 3. And it is very, very common for you to get interviews in all 4 of them, and then you might have to choose either one of them later on. That time, it shouldn't be that difficult. You will understand when you go for the interview. I would say you would actually get a vibe of sorts on where you want to go. So just go with your gut feeling.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you do that much of legwork, and when you tell them that I know this and this about the firm, they really do appreciate it. You've done your homework, so that's always going to be appreciated.
Any other questions? If you want a particular firm, then how should we push? So when you say push the other, right? Ishika, really good questions. It would be great if you could unmute and talk to us actually.
Yeah, I need a bit more
Hi,
explanation.
hi, I'm Ishika.
All right.
I'm from 4BCom F&A. So, right now my process is going on with EY and Deloitte and KPMG, but I want to wait for Deloitte. So, is it too risky to push the other firms and wait for Deloitte because the other firms my process is going faster?
I think Ani should take this. He has
No,
personal
I
experience.
was just gonna ask you to take it. So I would recommend that ultimately, to be very honest, if you asked me 3 years back, I would ask you to take Deloitte because I mean I'm not biased again, but I got a good number of study leaves and I got a good number of I felt the firm was better compared to the other 3. But right now, all of them are the same, right? So whichever gets done faster, just go for it. If KPMG's interview gets over tomorrow and they give you an offer letter, take it. You're not losing out on anything by probably missing out on EY or Deloitte. Just close your eyes and take KPMG for example. That's it.
Yeah, well, historically, Deloitte has
Thank you
always
so
been,
much.
yeah, historically, Deloitte has always been the slowest of all. but
Yeah. I know people who've been held up for 2 to 3 weeks after interviews, and they haven't gotten back to them on time. So they generally take a little bit of time, but
mm,
don't let that influence your decision. It's not like Deloitte is the supreme emperor of the Big Fours or something. All of them are on the same level.
I firmly believe that a lot of it depends on the team that you are in and the kind of clients you get,
Correct.
both in terms of experience and in terms of the quality of life that you'll have there.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's again Bharat.
Yeah.
Varad.
Yeah. So my doubt is same, like I have an offer letter from GT for joining this Monday, but other big fours I'm in tech round stage. So how do you personally see GT? Like I have talked to all the seniors, all the top big fives, and like the pros and cons remain the same at the end. Like it all depends on in which team you're plotted. So how would you see GT as compared to the other fours?
So I was in a similar situation. I got into GT as well, and I was holding on to them for about I this happened before results came out. So our GT interviews happened in the beginning of Jan. I got into GT, and results came out at the end of Jan. I had to hold on to GT for about, I would say, 2 3 weeks. I had to hold them off, and I did that because I had zero guarantee that I was getting into Deloitte, for example. So if you can defer your starting date, right, by giving them a reason, and this usually happens. Tell them for whatever personal reasons, you will not be able to start this Monday. So try pushing it by 2 3 weeks, telling them that you haven't finished orientation or ITT or whatever, and then evaluate all your offers. Because let's assume that you say no to GT, right? And for whatever reason, you aren't able to get into any of the big fours. Touchwood, I hope you do. I'm just telling you the worst case scenario. If it doesn't happen, then you'll definitely regret not taking GT. So I would say if you can defer it by a bit, try deferring it. Otherwise, if you're, I know people from GT who you can get in touch with, who will tell you about the experience, and it is largely similar. It is considered to be one of the big five. So I don't think it should matter a lot. But the only reason why I chose Deloitte over GT, for instance, would be because I felt Deloitte was more globally recognized. GT is also very globally well known, but I just felt a Big Four is a Big Four ultimately. So I don't want this to influence any of your decisions because it shouldn't. If you would ask me to go back in time and probably take the GT offer, I would have actually taken it up. So the only reason I didn't was because I felt Deloitte offered me more. But in hindsight, it kind of offered me the same thing that it offered the GT articles from my batch as well. So I hope Varad this answered your question.
Yeah, and if you want to push, I guess just get uh, creative, like the way he said you haven't finished
Yeah,
your orientation or ITT. How do you get out of a CIA when you haven't finished it on time? Use the same skills.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I'll try.
I mean I've heard like 3 people asking questions. I'm sure a lot of other people also have queries.
You can put it up in the chat
And
box if you don't want
yeah,
to
if
raise your hand.
correct. Because the reason we came here today was to clarify every single thing possible,
Yeah.
so that you don't have any queries when you go for an interview.
Yeah, like you can go in well prepared, knowing everything. Outstation audit, Yusuf. So I have never been on an outstation audit. I don't think Ani has. Have you
Yeah,
guys?
I did. I did.
Yeah.
I've been for about 4 5 days, and that really shouldn't affect your decision because the department I think gives you about 14 days of outstation audit leave per semester. So you're permitted to go for 14 days in a semester on an outstation audit. And it's a whole different experience. You get to understand you. I mean, it's ultimately I don't know how to put this across. It's a whole different experience ultimately, and it not everyone will go through it. I know people who joined with me in Deloitte who went for an outstation audit the very first week they joined to Raipur. but I had to wait for about a year or so to go to. So I went from Bangalore to Madurai for about a day or 2 days. So you really can't say. And I also know people who have never gone for outstation audits at all in the 3 years. So it's a very if and but situation
Yeah, the only time I went outstation was for a day for a stock
for
count.
a stock count. Yeah,
Yeah, but that's
same.
about it. I mean, outstation audit is just quite normal, honestly. It shouldn't, it's not a big deal. I guess people think it's a
The
big deal. It's not.
in the Big Four especially, they will book all your tickets. They will arrange transport. All you got to
Yeah,
do is board the right bus or board the right flight. Go there,
be on
do the
time.
same work you're expected to do, and come back.
Yeah, just be on time. That's it.
Yeah, and I think the 6:30 culture will ensure that. Don't worry.
True. Anyone else, you guys can also put it in the chat box.
Nachiappan, any questions that you think that they're potentially not raising?
Yes,
Yeah,
Ishika. Right now they're all working from home, but I think they'll soon be called to office. At least PwC is calling them. So it depends on the firm, I guess.
Guys, just one more question.
Yeah.
yes,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay. So I know the work-life balance in all the big fours are equally not that great, but how did you guys manage to manage your college fests and also work at the office? Did you like how did you manage it? The balance between and having fun as well, you know?
Yeah, so Ani is right there when he says is that even a thing. It's hard. You need to prioritize a few things. You need to tell your manager.
Yeah,
Sometimes you need to put the foot down and tell the managers, I can't make it, or I need a leave, I need a day off. Then take your day off. It's hard. It honestly is. How we managed it was on the days when I was busy, Ani would stay back and do some work. In the days when he was busy, I would stay back and do some work. Yeah, so this is where your soft skills come in really handy, I guess. Like both of us, I think, were really on a good connect with our managers, which is why we were able to get leaves on the day that we wanted to. And I would basically assure them that I will get the work done, but from home, even at that point. This is in 2018 or 19, and they would agree. And so yeah, it comes down to how you deal with them, what kind of a rapport you have with them. It is hard, it's not easy, and even the people there know it. And a lot of times they're very polite about it, but sometimes they're not. It depends on the kind of work also you have. I guess, like for example, if you ask for a leave in September, I think that's just stupid. No one's going to give you leave. Even weekends are like work days at that point because everyone's in a rush to close clients, your assignments. But if you, for example, if you need some leave in October or let's say Jan, which is when I took a lot of my leaves, I was able to get them because one, I had a good connect with my manager, and two, I didn't have a lot of work either, so I managed that somehow. That was my experience, Ani.
yeah. So I see again. To put it across very crudely, I have had days where my managers have probably gotten really annoyed with me because I would have sat at work and done some college thing, right? And that is, in hindsight, that was very unprofessional of me. So I have learned something along in the last 3 years that when you're in an organization, you have to commit to it entirely. But having said that as well, make sure that you don't miss out on college. You could have a few bad days at work where you're probably compromising on office work to probably get something done in college. I've been there, Dave's been there. But the only thing is probably bite the bullet and go ahead with it because I would not recommend anyone to only work for the last 1.5 years or last 1 year of your college life. That might get pretty boring. So make sure that you, in the last 1 year of work, right? Okay, let's not call it work-life balance. For y'all, the next 1 year, it's about managing college for 3 4 hours, going to work, and also doing multiple things, which is, to be very honest, going to be super hectic. You might burn out. You might have phases where you're probably reconsidering why you've taken the course. All of that is very normal. I haven't seen a single person who is probably not broken down during this period because it happens to everyone. All we have to do is accept the reality and move on. Because once you get what you have, like once you've done articleship, once you've cleared the final exams, it's a whole different feeling. Trust me. So just bite the bullet. And also, I would say in your first 1.5 years, right, before you start your CA final classes, work as much as possible, get exposure while also doing things in college, and make sure you are on very, very good terms with your managers or your directors, for example, and if you can with your partners, because that will help you probably ease out work towards the later half of your articleship, where you need to go for classes in the mornings and evenings. Very, very good connections in the first 1.5 years will help you in that.
Yeah, that's true.
Anirudh, they have another common stereotype about, big four entities is that a particular person, once they join in a big four entity, they only get to work on limited areas of a particular company, or they work on the same company, constantly. So that's something, that's a common stereotype. So do you want to address that?
The first stereotype is the usage of the word entity, which Nachiappan did 3 times. So that's how you know someone is from a big four. So yeah, those kind of things do happen sometimes. Like see for example, in the first year, you're going to get a limited set of areas, and depending on how you perform there, you might get a few complicated areas. It also depends on the size of the client. Like I remember when Ani was doing his listed client, even in a listed client, I think he was doing something which only a first year article would do, and which you would do on a normal client as well, which even I was doing. So in the beginning, at least, don't expect them to suddenly just give you a lot of complex work and stuff that will, be very exciting. It's not going to be that way. Because well, honestly, to get good work, the first and foremost thing that you need to do is build a lot of trust. And the way you can do that is to do the basic things well. Once you do the basic things well, and then you ask for difficult areas, you do get them. I have done it. I've gotten it. I've asked for difficult clients. I've gotten difficult clients. I've asked for bigger clients. I've gotten bigger clients, and have done some really, really complex areas. So no, that's not true. You can do different areas. In fact, so there were times when I worked on each and every area of the client. Sometimes, like the manager would tell me that you can have an overall look of the client, like manage the audit when he's not there. So you end up doing all of the areas anyway, because you have to take a look at all the areas. Like when you're in the third year or the second year, sometimes you'll be with a first year article, and you will have to coach them. You'll have to do your own areas. So I guess in my experience, I have been able to do each and every area. I've done from top to the bottom, left to right, any way you take it. I've done every single financial statement line item. So no, I don't think that's true. You do get a ton of exposure, but it all hinges on the kind of work that you do in the beginning, so that once you get a good reputation, people will start trusting you easily. You get complex work anyway as you progress into the firm, but to get it faster, this is the way.
I have nothing to add to that. That was perfect. So, Chipin, any other questions that you might have?
Nothing that I can recall of, and which hasn't been covered already.
Okay.
Okay, I don't see anyone raising hands either. So,
I
chat
hope
box also.
this. Yeah, I
Yeah.
hope I hope this was comprehensive enough. I mean, I know for a fact that there are still a lot of unanswered queries that might pop up later. So, okay, so Soumya's asked us is, will there be mentors to guide fresh articles? Definitely. So I can guarantee that the Big Fours have a culture where you're assigned a buddy. So when you join, for example, you're assigned a buddy who will guide you through almost everything. See, learning on the job is a different facet, but they will tell you how to go about things to begin with. So yes, there will be mentors.
Honestly, the first 2 months are a honeymoon period where you do not do any work. So at that point, you're just learning, you're having fun, you're getting to know the people around. And every time you sit on a client, there will always be someone senior and they will always be willing to help. So that is one thing that's very common in all the big four. Everyone's always willing to teach you. You can ask them more than once, which is always, a very common problem that people face. Can I ask them again? I didn't understand it the first time. Yes, you can. I have explained things to people more than once, and it's absolutely fine because I have asked for things more than once too, and that's completely okay. And yeah, for sure there are mentors, not just in big fours. I think even in mid-sized firms, it's no one's expecting you to know everything on day one, and they are more than okay teaching you because you make their job easier. So, yeah, that's it.
I think I'll take the liberty to conclude as well. Whereby I'd say the only thing that I would ask you to have if you get into a big four is just be open-minded, ask a lot of doubts. You might think any doubt you ask might sound really dumb, right? But all of us have been there. All of us have asked questions, and the only way you learn is by asking multiple things. So please don't shy away from asking anything for example. And I would love to probably connect with anyone who's cleared their interviews and started working in a firm on how to take it forward for that matter. I'm sure both of us would be more than happy to connect. And but right now, for today's topic, firstly, congratulations to all of those who've cleared. We know how it feels. So there's nothing, there's not a better feeling once you've actually passed that intermediate hurdle. So welcome to the articleship side, and I really hope all of you get into the firm you're trying for. And if you feel there are multiple options, take a step back, evaluate all of them. Trust me, all of them are almost the same. There's not a lot of difference. So if you get in, say at KPMG, take it. It's okay. If you get into EY, it's okay. Please do take it. I don't want any of you to have regrets later on for declining a possible offer. So I think that is my conclusion. Anything else, please do reach out to us personally as well. I mean,
Yeah,
I can't talk on behalf of Dave. You can reach out. I mean, he's probably
no,
busy with work,
same.
but
No, no, I always like connecting with people. So yeah, if
got
anyone
it.
needs anything, you can always, text us. I think Nachipan, if someone, you can probably approach Nachipan and he'll just send you across to us. And yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. And if you need something firm specific, for example, you can ask Ani for Deloitte, me for PwC, and we will know other people in the other firms, so we can probably connect you with those other people as well. Even if it's firm specific or just a general query, you can always come back to us. Yeah, I guess that's it, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I'm done
we'll
as well.
conclude the session. So thanks a lot, Anirudh and Dave, for making time from your busy schedules to, taking up this session. I think a lot of us, like, all of them really would really appreciate the fact that you guys have covered entire articleship, the dilemma of choosing which firm very comprehensively. So thanks a lot for that. And that's it from our side as well, guys. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks. Can we all just congratulate Ani for All India rank?
Can you not do this, Dave? Everyone's breathing.